Hello and welcome. Today we're going to dive into something pretty fascinating. We're going to see how a simple, universal fact about our eyes, something that happens to pretty much all of us, can actually unlock a profound truth about human nature, about politics, and really about the entire way we see the world.
So, it all kicks off with this question. It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? The idea that the things right in front of our faces, the stuff we should know best, can somehow end up being the most blurry. Let's really dig into that.
All right, to get our heads around this, we're going to start with a little bit of biology, because this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. No, it actually starts with a physical reality that honestly, many of us will experience in our own lives.
It's a condition called presbyopia. And here's the really important part. Science tells us this isn't some kind of disease. It's just a law of nature. It's what happens. As we get older, the lens in our eye gets a little harder, and suddenly, focusing on things up close is a real challenge. It's a totally universal human thing.
And, just think about the words science uses here. Nearsightedness, farsightedness. It's kind of funny. The terms themselves almost feel like a riddle. Science has its own logic, of course, but sometimes its language accidentally becomes the perfect metaphor for a much deeper truth about life itself.
So, let's make that leap right now. Let's go from talking about the physical lens inside our eyeballs to the perceptual lens, the one we use to view our lives, our relationships, our whole society.
And right here, this is the core idea we're exploring. What if, as we move through life, our perception, our mind's eye, develops its own kind of farsightedness? A condition where things way off in the distance, other people, other countries, other problems, they all seem crystal clear. But what's right in front of us? That stuff starts to fade into a blur. So, how does this weird perceptual flaw actually show up in our day-to-day lives? Well, a lot of the time, it looks like a set of very convenient double standards, especially in how we judge ourselves compared to how we judge everyone else.
And this is where it gets really clear, right? I mean, think about it. When someone else's kid makes a mistake, it gets dissected, it gets judged. But when it's our kid, these things happen. When we see corruption somewhere else, we're ready to give these passionate speeches on morality. But when it pops up in our own circle, suddenly it's just a misunderstanding. Nepotism in another group is an absolute outrage. But inside our own network, well, that's just tradition.
Now, let's watch how this thing builds, because this isn't just some personal quirk. This exact same perceptual flaw scales up, way up, with even more dramatic effects, into the world of politics and power. You could almost argue that the single greatest visual defect in politics is this variability, the power to see everything that's far away with perfect 20/20 clarity, while at the same time completely failing to see what is standing right in front of you.
And you really do see this everywhere. You meet people who are incredibly well-informed about global crises and international policies. They can analyze foreign affairs with such confidence and clarity. But how many of them apply that same sharp focus to what's going on in their own homes, their own local institutions, or their own communities? The distant is in sharp focus. The immediate is just a blur.
But what's truly fascinating? The denial that goes with it. Those distant enemies are so easy to spot. They're unmistakable. But the flaws right next to us? Totally unseen. It's almost like someone who needs reading glasses for the first time, insisting, no, my vision is perfectly fine, right up until the moment the words on the page just completely dissolve.
This all raises a much deeper question, though. Is this just an unconscious bias, something we can't help? Or is there sometimes a will to be blind? An ancient story actually gives us a really powerful character to think about this with.
The character's name is Dhritarashtra. He's a blind king from the ancient epic, the Mahabharata. Now, he's often painted as this unjust ruler, fatally blinded by his love for his son. But there's a crucial detail in his story that we often just skim right over.
And here's that detail. He was born blind. His inability to see wasn't a choice he made. It was a physical reality that was forced on him. So in that sense, you could say his blindness was honest. He never once pretended he could see.
And this presents us with a really stark contrast, doesn't it? Because today, we're living in a time with a far more dangerous kind of blindness, one that's perceptual and, frankly, convenient. So what are we supposed to say about people who do have eyes, who have advisors and data and reports, and yet they still choose not to see the problems right there in their own circles? They live comfortably with this idea that whatever's closest is simply too blurred to judge.
Which brings us to the final and most critical question. If this is our condition, if we are all prone to this kind of perceptual presbyopia, is there a cure?
You know, for the physical problem, science gives us a beautifully simple fix: a pair of glasses. A simple tool and boom, clarity is restored. But for this other kind of blindness, this moral, political farsightedness, well, no such easy fix exists. If only. If only there were a pair of glasses that could help us see the truth sitting right on our own doorstep.
Because the stakes are incredibly high. When we decide to ignore what's right there, when we sacrifice a little integrity for convenience or for someone in our circle, we aren't just making a small compromise. We slowly, piece by piece, erode trust. Then we erode fairness. And eventually, we erode the very ground we're standing on.
There's this message that serves as a quiet but really powerful reminder that everything we ignore, it has consequences. Ultimately, maybe the clearest vision isn't about being able to see farther and farther away. Maybe it's about finally learning to see, with real focus and honesty, what has been right in front of us all along.